Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cap at Home in our summer chill with art session. My name is Miss Allie, and today we're going to be making these really cool 3D pop art paper collages. So, collages meaning we're using different amounts of things, in this case different papers, and pop art, a style of art, and we're kind of also working with 3D because it's kind of popping off the page. So we're going to talk about all of these things and work on making this 3D pop art collage. We're also using some pop art words, some things that you see in comic books. So let's get started. I'm going to flip over to my art making board. I'll show you what we're going to need, and we can get started making this really fun project. So as I get set up here, I do want to thank a couple of our sponsors. So of course we want to thank the College for Creative Studies and General Motors for helping us get and make these free live art tutorials from week to week. So let's get started on what materials we're going to need with us today. Now, if you can see in my example, I have quite a few different colors here. I like to grab different sheets of paper. I actually have a bunch here in different colors. I try and get the primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow, as well as black and white. And you can do any variations of those colors as you want. We're also going to need some things, so glue stick, some scissors. We're also going to need pencil, some colored markers. Again, I try and stick to the primary colors, a black marker or Sharpie. And then I use this foam tape. But you can also use thin pieces of cardboard if that works better for you. So let's get started on how you make this. So like I mentioned briefly, we're working with a few different ideas today. So collage, meaning multiple things that are put together. So in this case, we're putting together different types or styles of paper. We're working with the idea of 3D. Meaning something that's not flat, because we have things that are sticking up off of the page. We have some volume, we have some height here. And we're working with the idea of pop art. So pop art is a style where you a lot of times see this in comic books, a lot of bright colors, bold outlines, as well as like polka dots, stripes, and again, our primary colors. And you also see these you also see a lot of times these words, and sometimes these words reference things. And a lot of times, like I said, you see them in comic books, so you'll see like the word pow or wow, and we're going to be working with that today. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to kind of put this up here. The first thing we're going to do is get a square piece of paper. Now, for today, I'm going to start with a square blue piece of paper. And as always, I recommend working on a surface that you don't mind getting messy. So, start with a square piece of paper. I think it's just easier to work square. And then what we're going to do is actually make these sort of cut out lines. And that's what we are going to do first. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually take this blue piece of paper, take my scissors, and just make a few lines here. And I'm kind of doing them, a few going, you know, a few more straight, a few more diagonal, make some fat ones, some real skinny ones. Doesn't have to be perfect. Whatever makes sense to you, a few of these. And I actually had a few left over from when I did my first example. So what I'm going to do first is actually take those, and I'm going to actually just glue these on. And if you see in my example, they're going to kind of come off the page a little bit, and that's great. So it kind of gives us this comic or this exploding feel. So I'm just going to take my glue stick, and this part's going to be flat. So I'll take a few of these that I like, again, good surface to work on or to glue on. And I'm going to sort of just put them on here so it looks like they're coming out of the page. And I'm going to try and get a few different sizes in here. So a few real skinny ones. And I'm going to do, I don't know, and I like putting them off the page, maybe like 5 or 6 of them. And you can do them sort of close together or further apart, whatever makes sense to you. You can even put a little diagonal on a few of them, if that And this middle part we're going to cover up, so don't worry about trying to make it like they can't touch. Okay, got all of it starting to stick together here. Again, a good thing to have is a workspace, so something it doesn't mind if you get glue on it. As you can see, I have markers on mine, so I have this as my like sort of big work paper table. Okay. I think that's, maybe I'll do like one really fat one here, and I think that'll be good. And if you notice, I'm kind of only gluing the bottom half, because I know that that's what's going to stick. So, I have that part. Now I'm going to kind of slide this to the side. And what I want to do now is actually make this part. So these are sort of like bubble. I almost compare them to like these bubbles that you see in comic books. Almost like thought bubbles. So you're going to go ahead and draw these out. I use white paper for this. And you can start with pencil, or you can just go ahead and go with marker. This is, again, if you have like some pieces of paper that aren't like full pieces, but like half pieces, this is a good time to use them. So I go ahead and cut these out. And again, you can do this in pencil first and get it the way that you like it. And then cut it out and outline it with marker. And we're gonna make 2 of these, actually. Sometimes the cutting out is like the longest part of this project. And if you notice I'm not being super exact on my lines, and I'll show you why here in just a second. So if I didn't like use a template for this or anything, I sort of just went with my instincts. Scraps I'm going to put to the side, and I'm going to take my handy marker again. And what I'm going to do, again, why it's a good thing to have a workspace, I'm just going to go around and make this a really thick, bold line. Again, I sort of mentioned this at the beginning, but this is a key part of, like, pop art or comic book style, especially if you look at artists like Roy Lichtenstein. He's a good example for this. There's lots of dots, primary colors, bold lines. So if that's an artist you're not familiar with, I definitely feel like that's a good one to check out. But really any comic book, you'll see this. But anyway, so I'm just outlining the lines, and I know what's kind of going over onto this page. So that's why I'm working on top of a page I don't mind getting dirty. And that way I'm not ruining my table. I'm also using a fat Sharpie, which I got at the dollar store. But you can use just a normal plain marker, a black marker, or if you want to use a thinner one and get a thinner line, you can totally do that. I love the fat Sharpies. They're some of my favorites. Okay, so we have it like that. And I'm going to take, let's see, a red marker. And I'm going to make these circles. So, again, if you have like a dotted marker or a paint marker or something, and you want to just do like flat dots so you know they're all going to be the same size, you can totally do that. Or you can just do what I'm doing and kind of eye it and sort of just see if you can make them all the same size. I do some of them kind of coming off the page. This again kind of goes into the idea of the Roy Lichtenstein art, so again, totally recommend checking him out. You'll see what I mean the second you look at his work. But these dots kind of give another layer, so it's sort of like part of collage is all about layering. And this kind of gives a good extra layer that isn't just like plain. So we're adding some pattern here, using our art vocab words. Using some pattern. Again, you can see I'm kind of going off the page a little bit. Like that. Okay, so I say that looks pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to make 2 of these. I actually already have one done. So then we can go on to the next part, which is, I'm going to take my paper back. I'm going to kind of push all this other stuff out of the way. And this is where our fun foam tape comes into play. So this is just like this thick foam tape that I got. Again, you can get it at the dollar store. You can also use scrap cardboard or even foam and just glue them on here, but this again adds some, helps add some layers. So I have a couple pieces, it's double-sided, and so what I'm going to do is peel the back side off, and I like to kind of fold them in half so it gives it even more height. And I'm just going to place a couple of them on there. It doesn't totally have to cover it, I just sort of get some of the edges here. Like I'd say for the bigger ones, you know, maybe 4 pieces, but you can do them however you think it'll make sense. So that's the only thing, is these little green sticky things are going to get all over your table. Okay, so we have one, and I'm going to do them both, and then we'll place them on our page. And you can do less too. It's kind of up to how you want to do it. And you can make them flat. Depends on how thick your foam is, and how much you want there, like how much space you want it to be in between each layer. So that's something you'll be able to mess around with once you get yours. So I'll show you kind of the difference. So what I like to do is sort of place them and say, okay, you can even overlap them a little bit or have them go in different directions. I kind of like them sort of like this. Like I think that could be really cool. Okay, so I have them here and they're starting to stick up a little bit, which is good. I think as we build up, you start to see the difference in layers. So the next thing we want to do is add some of these shapes. So this is on the same layer. I have some blue and red sort of shapes going on. So what I'm going to do again, I'm going to kind of put this aside. And what I'm going to do is take my red piece and I'm going to make this sort of spiky shape. Again, you can totally draw this out with pencil first. And then, again, the same process. You can go ahead and cut this out and make a thick, bold outline. So, just for the sake of time, I've actually already done that. So, I have that ready to go. And on that same level, we have some of these other triangles or sort of these thick lines. So, what I would want to do is take my blue piece of paper and just draw out a few triangles. And notice how I'm not doing anything with a ruler or anything. That can be totally up to you. So same process. You're going to cut these out. Use your scissors, cut them out. Then you're going to take your marker again. Thick, bold outline, same as we did with the first bubble. And again, for the sake of time, I actually already have these ready to go. So what you're going to do is take them, figure out how you want to place them. This project has a lot of figuring out how you like the placement and gluing. So I sort of like this, so it's sort of diagonal. And so what I'm going to do is, again, take my handy glue or, foam tape things. I'm going to peel them off, and you can even fold them a couple times if you want. Again, I'll show you kind of the difference that you get here. Fold, fold. I have a few pieces cut over here. I'm going to have to cut some more in a second here. Okay, I might add one more on the side here. I actually might even cut this piece in half. These are some of these funny things that like you can use to hang things on the wall or use for art projects. Multi-purpose. Like I said, you can also use like pieces of scrap cardboard or even like foam plates or trays. And so like I said, I sort of liked it like this. Ooh, I didn't stick that on very good. There we go. Sort of liked it like this. I thought that was a cool angle. So I sort of gently put it on there. I don't want to pat it down too much. And then I'm going to take these guys and I'm going to find places for them. I might actually like this one more over here. And these I'm just going to glue on. These I did like 5 of them. So I'm going to just take my glue stick and do the same thing. I'm going to glue them on here. And I tried to find placements that were like in between some of these other spikes that we had from our first layer. And if that happens, you can sort of just like fold it down. It'll flatten out as we start to work. You can also end up using your foam tape or whatnot and put a little piece there so it sticks up. Like I said, if it rolls a little bit, that's okay. It's going to flatten out. Just for while the glue dries. And again, these kind of totally go off the page as well. And I kind of get them in between like the spikes and the other lines I have going on my page. So I have a variety of things happening here. Again, these can overlap and whatnot as well. Okay, so this I might even flip over for a second just to kind of get those layers smoothed out. Okay. So, looking good so far. Like I said, those are curling up, not a big deal. So the next thing we want to do is actually add this other layer. So this white part. So this is what our word is going to be setting on. So it's just like that first spike that we made. We're going to make another one of those spike shapes. And I like to make this on white paper. So again, what we're going to want to do, take a piece of white paper. Again, this is like if you use white paper for the first thing, cut it in half. You could go ahead and use the other half of your white paper. So same process. I like to do this one a little bit more spiky instead of doing the first design where we did this. This one I did more like straight triangles. Same thing, you're going to want to cut this out and outline it again. So again, for the sake of time, I actually have this ready for us. Ta-da, this shape. And what we're going to do is figure out where we want it to go. So I'm a fan of things going in different directions, so I kind of like this going like this. So what I'm going to do is take some more of my foam tape. I'm going to cut a big strip, and I'm going to cut it into a few pieces here. And that should be good for this. Flip this over, tape it, and you can kind of mess around with it too and decide which direction you want it to go. I like to fold this a few times over, as you've seen, because I like it to be a little bit taller, show more depth. So again, good 3D part of collage, things kind of sticking out. That's kind of the fun thing about using things like paper. So because even though paper is a flat or a 2D thing, we're kind of making it 3D. We're adding layers. We're making things stand out up off the page. So we're getting a little fancy with our paper here. Okay, I'm going to cut this one in half and do 2 more. With these bigger shapes, I like to do just a few of them, just so I know that they're going to really, you know, every part of the shape is going to evenly stand up. Corrugated cardboard is a good thing to use for things like this. So that's the cardboard that has like those bumps. That can also be really useful. I know, sometimes the hardest part is working with these. Okay. So I was saying I sort of like it like this. I'm a fan of things kind of going in different directions. So see how we're starting to get some really good volume, some really good layers here. If we kind of like hold it up, I know you're kind of looking at it like that. We're seeing some things really starting to build up. So the last thing we want to do is choose our words. So this is sort of the really fun part about this. You can choose any word that you want. Again, I like to think about, you know, the comic book words. So this is actually these words, they're called onomatopoeia. So they're words that kind of almost describe actions, like pow, bam, wow, things like that. And if you're not sure, you can also look up those words, and things that you might see, like when in a comic book, when someone like punches something, it's like bam. That's what we're kind of working with. So what I like to do is take a bright color like yellow, and you're going to write out your word. So my first word that I did was pow. I did that in yellow. I think this one will do wow. So I'm going to kind of put that right there. And I'm going, again, just going to... Oh, that was really bad. A good reason to do things in pencil first. And I always add an exclamation point. you know, something like that. So again, same process as we've done before. You're going to cut this out and you're going to outline it in black. Now, key thing, you want to make sure that it's going to be like big enough. Like I think this might be a little small. So luckily I had already had this ready and I think that's going to be a good size right here. And even if it goes off the shape a little bit, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is take this letter, my word, it says wow, and we're going to go back to our dots again. I'm going to go with my handy red. I guess I could have done blue as well, but I was kind of feeling the red on yellow vibe. It feels more punchy. So I've already cut this out, I've outlined it, and now I'm kind of adding my red dots like we did before, adding some pattern in there. Again, if you have a different type of marker or like even a paint marker that you want to use to give you a solid, same sort of circle, you can. I sort of just eye it. And again, I'm kind of getting some going off the letters. They're not all perfect circles. Doing my best. And I kind of left them so they're all connected, but if you want to cut out each letter individually, you can also do it that way as well. Whatever works for you. Okay, so I have my word. Wow, that's my onomatopoeia word. Covering all sorts of things today. And again, like I said, I kind of like things going in different directions, so I could put it like this, but I kind of like it sort of slightly askew. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take my handy foam tape. This is where we're going to have to get some real skinny pieces. So I'm going to cut them a little smaller this time. And I like to roll them like I showed you before. Might need more than this, so we'll see. So we're getting close to the end. And we're getting to our final touches here. Adding our last layer. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers here. So it should stick off the page pretty good. I like to make this last one a lot taller because, you know, it's the punch. So I like to roll these really tight so it's like a nice big roll like this. Pop art's really fun. It's one of those types of art where you see a lot of like common images, a lot of really fun things. Like I said, comic book light, things that are punchy, silly, brightly colored, bold outlines type of thing. So it's a fun type of artwork, and these are really cool because we're also, you know, using a little bit of vocabulary. We're adding some 3D elements here. We're mixing with different papers. So we have some fun things going here. I'm actually going to do one small piece. Okay. All right. That exclamation point. Gotta have that exclamation point. All right. Like I said, I'm going to kind of do it there. See how that last one really stands out most. So this is our final product. I think it's looking really good. If there's any small details you want to add, I always kind of add in these little lines. Again, if you've ever looked at a comic book or some pop art, you'll see a lot of like lines, shapes, patterns, primary colors. Again, we're using a lot of our art vocab here. So we'll see a lot of those. So sometimes I like to just add in those. Just gives it a little bit more layer to it, and there you have it. Now this is looking great. If there's any areas at this point that you feel like need more tape, then you could go through and add them. Like I might add a few just on these edges here, just to make them stand up a little bit, but for the most part, I think this looks really good. So at this point, you can throw away any of your scraps. You can save any of your scrap paper that's still usable. Make sure everything has caps on it, markers, glue sticks, etc. And then you can show off your really awesome 3D paper pop art collage. So hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial today. Again, my name's Miss Allie, and we made these really awesome 3D paper pop art collages using onomatopoeia. We talked about pop art. Remember to look up Roy Lichtenstein, and have fun with this. I hope you enjoyed this. I know I had fun with this too. So feel free to share what you made. I'd love to check it out. And be sure to check out our next videos. We have videos every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 1 o'clock. You can check out our whole library on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you next time.